And greetings, everybody. Keith here as Word Wizard. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to go over resident and residency tonight, and hopefully, people will comprehend the base foundation of what I will call subordination of perjury of identification. Um, when we're induced to believe that we are residents of the state and United States citizens. So let's take a look at the term resident. And I want to remind everybody, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There should be a PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love as well. And on Word Wizard, we're not going to do any panels. I'm just going to ramble on through definitions and stuff and give you folks something that you can start doing some research on, because I think this is the base foundation of our miscommunications, is people don't really understand how these certain terms are being applied according to different grammar forms. So what we have here is just a Google search, and it says resident as a noun. Plural noun is residence. A person who lives somewhere permanently or on a long-term basis. So this is a common layman term. A bird, butterfly, or other animal of a species that does not migrate. So they are resident birds in the state of Iowa. There are resident birds in the state of Arizona. Two different subsets of birds, each different residents of the different areas that they live in long term. U.S., a person who boards at a boarding school. Historical, a British government agent in any semi-independent state, especially the Governor General's agent at the court of an Indian state. North American, a medical graduate engaged in specialized practice under supervision in a hospital. So this is what's known as the action of living in the hospital for a long-term period, which is to gain specialized practice. And that is the term of the period, because normally you don't live in a hospital, but interns specializing in a certain practice will live in the hospital under supervision in a hospital. It's called residency. Adjective, resident, living somewhere on a long-term basis. We live in this world, but are not of this world. We live in this world our entire lives. He has been a resident in Brazil for a long time. Having quarters on the premises of one's work. Having quarters, meaning sleeping and cooking quarters, on the premises of one's work. Cooking, cleaning, bedding. Attached to and working regularly for a particular institution. Similar is permanent incumbent. You can grow up to be a president someday, Johnny, but first you gotta have that regular working situation for the particular institution that you want to be a president of, and that is called residency, Johnny. You have to be a resident first to be president. En post. In an official diplomatic position at a particular place. I want to ask everybody, did you get a high school Diploma, something to think on, folks. And this is why I talk about the Postal Service so much on my other channels. So, the next one we're going to look at is etymon line. And I want to thank my, folks down in the chat, 5-Speed, Barbara, Hadasa. Folks, welcome. Please be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Get this out. And so when we see resident on etymon line as a noun, it says an inhabitant. Is it something habitual that you do for a long time? One who dwells, as in the electrical definition of dwell, pause or rest. One who dwells in a place permanently for a considerable time. It's your place of rest. You call it your dwelling. From resident, adjective, meaning medical graduate doing supervised specialized practice in a hospital as training. Does that sound again like working for a particular institution? Resident as an adjective, dwelling, residing, having an abode, as in abundance, an abode, in a place for a continuance of time. From Old French, resident, and directly from Latin residentum, nominative residens. Present participle of a residier, to sit, as I mentioned before, a resting place. That's why they call it dwell. To sit down, settle. Settle. Is that the settlement? Are you a resident of the settlement? Was it already settled? Is that your mentality, that it was already settled and you were just automatically a resident? What says so? From early 15th century, as stay in a place in discharge of some duty. Originally ecclesiastical, as being a brother's keeper. Not literally to go take your brother and keep him behind bars until he discharges some duty. Reside, to remain at place. From Old French resider, 15th century, and directly from Latin residir, sit down, settle, remain behind, rest, linger, be left. You guys on a journey? Are you going to be left behind? Or do you have another place that you're going? Are you in this world or are you of this world? From re, back and again. Sedir, to sit. So to sit again. The meaning to dwell permanently or for a considerable time is attested by 1570s. Resided, residing, also from the French word are Dutch resideren and German residieren. Non-resident. A clergyman who fails to reside in the locality of his benefice. One who does not reside within a particular jurisdiction. Correct, Dean. I am a stranger and sojourner with our Father which art in heaven, across all of his lands, which shall not be sold forever. And my coming and going, he preserves it from this time forth and even forevermore. When was this time forth and even forevermore? Before he formed me in the belly is when he knew me. Before I came as forth out of the womb, he sanctified me and ordained me to be a prophet unto the nations. And even in my own nation, I will be belittled as a prophet. So I'm supposed to go out of my place of benefice and minister that gospel. And when I speak about that gospel, folks, I'm speaking about the truth. Again, that First Amendment right, freedom of expression. My freedom of expression is only quantified and superior by your right to know. I have it singularly, but you collectively have it such a greater right in that. Therefore, my duty is to express the truth in all things that I do. Residency, again, under the regular Google. The fact of living in a place. Dean, you understand this, don't you? So and so, such a person is a resident of such and such a county. These papers show we have a right to residency. Same kind of thing. It's merely the facts in the papers. Are those facts true and correct? Are you in fact a resident by the use of that term resident in those papers according to the grammar used for whatever jurisdiction they're trying to apply? Historical, the official residence of the British Governor General's representative or other government agent, especially at the court of an Indian state. Dean, I know again you'll understand this is why we find the Title 4D and child support and all that under foster care and adoption, which is under the Indian laws, Title 25. So let's take a look at the next one, etymology, residence, as it told us to look at it before earlier in the resident. It is the act of dwelling in a place. The act versus the fact. My actions of living here in this place are not properly as described in that document. How do I know? You have a certain application of the definition of resident. In the state of Iowa, it says resident determination is for individual income tax purposes. And we'll see that shortly, folks. One's dwelling place, one's resting place, not one's place of business, one's resting place. From Old French residence, from medieval Latin residentia, residing, dwelling, present participle of residere, present participle, not past. To settle, linger, sit down, see, reside. Meaning, fact of having one's usual abode in a particular place. Is from late 15th century, the sense of a staying in some place for the discharge of special duties or one's occupation is also from late 14th century. Originally ecclesiastical, extended in the 19th century to professors, artists, poets, etc. The expression intern in residence is attested by 1954. Whatever title that business, say you're an apprentice for a tin company, the expression apprentice in residence would be the same use as intern in residence in the hospital. Reside as a verb is to remain at a place. and directly from Latin residere, sit down, settle, remain behind, rest, linger, be left, back again, da da da. Same thing we saw earlier. To dwell permanently or for a considerable time. Non-residence, same thing. Fact of non-residing within a particular jurisdiction. Whereas before it was non-residence, it was a clergy, reference to clergy living away from their pastorate charge. Okay? Is there a cost of living? What are they charging you? What is the duty of your charge? So let's take a look at the next one, which is from the Federal Code. 19 U.S. Code 81.0, residence of zone. What is the zone, folks? Is that the zoning improvement plan that you use in a national address format, which is only 3 lines? Anybody ever teach you how to write an address with different formatting? Maybe we'll do that sometime. Watch for it on one of my other channels. Under A, it says persons allowed to reside in zone. So remember who the person is. We went over that. I already had definition of person. Allowed to reside in zone. It says no person shall be allowed to reside within the zone. And you'll notice it's blue line highlighted. And when we click on that, it tells us the definition of zone, which is from 19 U.S.C. 81A, subsection I. It says the term zone means a foreign trade zone. Okay? So we're dealing with a trade zone, a foreign trade zone. And you are, in fact, foreign to them, but yet you're imposting, which is Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, and you're the imposter. You're the imposter. No person shall be allowed to reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents. Whose resident presence is present participle is deemed necessary by the board. Again, blue line highlighted. Click on it, and the board is, the term board means the board which is established to carry out the provisions of this chapter. The board shall consist of the Secretary of Commerce, who shall be chairman and executive officer of the board, and the Secretary of the Treasury. So if you've not spoken to those people, then it is not deemed necessary. You have only volunteered. And your voluntary information, the data elements that you're entering into the record, are in error. You shouldn't be doing that, in my strongest opinion, unless you know exactly what each word means. So, now that we know you can't be a resident according to the federal code, unless you're a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent, who was deemed necessary by the board, of course, that means you had to have first taken upon what? An oath of office to perform the functions of public office, the very definition of trade or business in a foreign trade zone. Let's look at Iowa Code. It's the Iowa Administrative Code 701-38.17, 422, and it says resident determination is for Iowa individual income tax purposes. An individual is a resident if. So the purpose is for individual income taxes. In other words, you have to be deemed necessary by the board for tax purposes. According to the way the codes work and intertwine with each other, that's basically what we're looking at. So again, don't believe me. Do your research so you can come to a comprehension. I can explain it to you, but I cannot comprehend it for you. And 18 U.S. Code 2422, coercion and enticement. Whoever knowingly persuades, induces, entices, or coerces any individual to travel in interstate or foreign commerce, or in any territory or possession of the United States, to engage in prostitution or in any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense. In this chapter, the term sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense does not require interpersonal physical contact. So the description of intercourse in interstate and foreign commerce would be contracting and includes the production of child pornography as defined in section 2256 subsection 8, and includes. Remember what that include means, folks? It's justum generis, means it's the exclusion of all else, or attempts to do so shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. Whoever using the mail or any facility or means of interstate or foreign commerce or within the special maritime and territorial jurisdiction of the United States knowingly persuades, induces, entices, or coerces any individual who has not attained the age of 18 years to engage in prostitution or any sexual activity for which any person can be charged with a criminal offense or attempts to do so shall be fined under this title and imprisoned not less than 10 years or for life. When I talk about Deuteronomy 24:7, where somebody is caught stealing one of the children of the brethren of Israel and making merchandise of them, that's the intercourse I'm talking about. And that's why I call it subordination of perjury of identification. We're supposed to be teaching our children who they truly are and not how to live their entire life as decedents, dead people, literally, not having a say in what they do, so long as they sign that name and somebody else will tell them what they can and can't do. It's pathetic. It's the worst form of coercion. So let's talk about that address. Everybody's been taught to teach or write their legal name, first and last name. They even tell you in kindergarten, write your first and last name legally. They don't tell you to write your given name and your family name. Nobody's teaching them that. They don't tell them how to distinguish the difference. So then they turn around and teach them how to write the address with it. 3-line national address format. A simple way, form, style of grapheme of the grammar that says in it that you somehow are liable under these national social compacts. So if you want to write something to me, you would have a 5-line address that says Brother Keith in Ecclesia, full colon stop. Second line, care of Joyce, full colon stop. Then the street address with its number and apartment and all that. Third line. Then the fourth line is the city, state, and zip. And then you put a fifth line down there, United States of America. And you'll notice what happens there in that address format. You got a 5-line address format that they recognize automatically as not domestic. Therefore, it is in fact foreign. And there's no, quote, last names. No, quote, family names. and yet it still gets to me. How is that? You have to understand what's going on with the language and realize what it's doing to you. Because when you fall victim to the language, I'm going to read Proverbs 11:15. He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it. Now that doesn't mean you're intelligent. That actually means hurt, painful. It's painful. It smarts when you rack your shin on the hitch of a bumper. It smarts. It hurts. He that is surety for a stranger shall hurt for it. And he that hateth suretyship is sure. With that, we come to the end. And with that, you folks know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And I say I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you don't respect me. That's on you. So may God bless you. Have a good night. Bye now.